Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar sponsored by the Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, or more commonly referred to as ASPPH. I am Monica Staller, Director of Applied Learning and Training here at ASPPH. The purpose of today's webinar is to share information about fellowship opportunities sponsored by ASPPH for soon-to-be graduates and recent alumni of our member CEPH-accredited schools and programs of public health. I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, Sierra Sledge, our Fellowship Program Manager. Sierra will help me lead today's presentation. During today's webinar, we will share information about fellowship opportunities at two federal agencies, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. The deadline for the USDA Rural Health Fellowship has already passed, so we're not going to discuss that program today. In addition, we will provide a brief overview of the application process for all ASPPH fellowships. We're also joined today by two speakers who will provide their firsthand experience and knowledge of the fellowship programs. Burnley Truax, a current ASPPH fellow at the EPA, and Michael Vega, a current ASPPH fellow at the CDC. Lastly, we have allocated time at the end of the program for questions and answers. So before we start, a few housekeeping details. As mentioned, we'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the program. But at any time during the webinar, you can type your question into the questions box, which you can find on the toolbar at the bottom of your computer screen as shown here. Now let's get started. The Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, known as ASPPH, is the voice of accredited public health education. We represent schools and programs accredited by the Council on Education for Public Health, or as commonly referenced, CEPH or CEPH. ASPPH is pleased to partner with federal agencies, including the EPA, the CDC, and the USDA, to offer public health training opportunities for students and recent graduates of our member schools and programs. Now, you may ask yourself, what distinguishes the ASPPH training programs from all the other fellowship programs out there? First and foremost, with over 40 years of applied learning and training program experience, ASPPH provides highly respected and recognized mentor training programs that are specifically aimed at fostering the growth of early career public health professionals. We have time-tested relationships with federal agencies that are involved in public health, such as the CDC, EPA, and USDA. The performance of our fellows speaks for itself, as a significant number of our program participants go on to become full-time employees or contractors at their host agencies or other federal, state, and local public health agencies. In addition, as an ASPPH fellow, you become part of a network of nearly 2,500 ASPPH fellowship and internship alumni who are public health leaders in the private, nonprofit, academic, and government organizations. Wherever you are in your career, you can always contact ASPPH and ASPPH fellow and intern alumni for networking, advice, and support. ASPPH fellowships are applied learning and training programs that provide effective practical preparation for early career professionals through the enhanced interplay of the didactic educational experience in fundamental public health concepts and real-world experience that enable our students to apply those concepts. Our fellowships are long-term training assignments that are typically 1 to 2 years, and in some circumstances, 3 years. Fellowships are open to recent graduates, defined as students who will have received a master's or doctorate degree by the start of the fellowship, or alumni who have graduated within the previous 5 years of the start date of the fellowship. Applicants' degrees must come from ASPPH member institutions. So even if your program is CEPH-accredited, if it is not a member of ASPPH, then you are not eligible to apply to ASPPH training programs. During this presentation, we will focus on ASPPH fellowship opportunities that are scheduled to begin in 2025 with the EPA and the CDC. Now, to reiterate, To be eligible for ASPPH fellowship programs, applicants must have received a master's or doctorate degree from a CEPH-accredited school or program of public health that is a member of ASPPH. The graduate degree must have been earned prior to the beginning of the fellowship and no earlier than the previous 5 years. We're often asked if you must have an MPH degree specifically, or if it is okay to have an MSPH or MHS. The answer depends on where you received your degree. If you attended an ASPPH member School of Public Health, then any graduate degree through the School of Public Health is acceptable. If you attended an ASPPH member program of public health, only those degrees that are accredited by CEPH are eligible, and this will vary by program and institution. The same principle applies to doctoral degrees. They must be from an ASPPH member CEPH-accredited program, CEPH-accredited degree at your program of public health. All applicants for ASPPH fellowships must also be U.S. citizens or hold visas permitting permanent residence in the U.S., otherwise known as having a green card, to be eligible. Now, for our international students who are on today's webcast, we suggest you check with your school's Career Services Office as well as the ASPPH website, publichealthjobs.org, to find opportunities for which you might be eligible. You may also research opportunities available for international students directly through the federal agency in which you are interested. ASPPH fellowship assignments are 12-month placements. Some ASPPH programs offer extensions for a second and possibly third year based on the availability of funding at the host agency and the satisfactory progress of the fellow. Fellows receive training stipends as well as an allowance for health insurance premiums, and in most, but not all cases, a travel and training allowance. The stipends and allowances vary by program and fellowship location. In addition, to monitor fellows' success in the program, all fellows are required to establish goals and objectives that they will accomplish during their placement. These goals and objectives are established in collaboration with host agency mentors and reported to ASPPH at the beginning of the fellowship. Fellows then report to ASPPH and their mentors on their progress in accomplishing their learning plan throughout the assignment period. At the end of the assignment, each fellow is required to submit a final report and assessment. We're excited to announce new fellowship opportunities that will begin in 2025 with the ASPPH EPA Environmental Health Fellowship Program and the ASPPH CDC Public Health Fellowship Program. The ASPPH EPA Fellowship application cycle is currently open, and the deadline is January 29th. The ASPPH CDC Fellowship will open next week on January 24th, and the deadline is March 13th. These deadlines apply to all fellowship materials, so letters of recommendation and faculty advisor verification are also due on these dates. So be sure to keep this in mind as you proceed with the application process. And we'll discuss a little bit more about this in just a few minutes. Now let's talk a bit about each of these programs. The goal of the ASPPH EPA Environmental Health Fellowship Program is to provide professional training and opportunities for early career public health professionals to be involved with EPA on current and emerging environmental public health needs. The program provides fellows the opportunity to train under nationally recognized experts who work to protect human health and the environment at a national and international level. Potential training areas include public health and climate crisis, environmental justice and civil rights, clean and healthy air for all communities, safety chemicals for people and the environment, and children's environmental health. Fellowship locations are primarily based here in Washington, D.C. and Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, but there are occasionally opportunities open at EPA regional offices. The 12-month placements are expected to start in October of 2025. The goal of the ASPPH CDC Public Health Fellowship Program is to identify new approaches and opportunities for field experience in which recent graduates and early career professionals with graduate degrees can practice applying skills and knowledge learned in the classroom to real public health practice. A competency-based core curriculum creates a foundation through which fellows develop the skills they need to offer essential public health and population health services while learning from CDC's leading experts in the field. ASPPH fellows have gained invaluable experience through their direct contributions to fighting a variety of public health emergencies, such as H1N1, Ebola, and of course, most recently, COVID-19. Fellowship locations are primarily based in Atlanta, Georgia, but in some circumstances, remote placements are allowed. There are also occasional placements in CDC regional offices. The positions this year will begin in mid-September 2025. Now, I can tell you more details about these programs, but the best people to describe them are those who are experiencing them. So we're thrilled to be joined today by two current ASPPH fellows. Michael Vega is currently a public health fellow at CDC based in Atlanta, Georgia, but he works remotely from Chicago, Illinois. And Burnley Truax, currently an environmental health fellow at EPA, is based here in Washington, D.C. We will now hear from the fellows about why they chose the ASPPH fellowship, what their fellowship involves, and some tips on how to strengthen your own application. We'll start with Michael. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Monica. And yeah, like you mentioned, I am based in Chicago, but I'm actually in Atlanta this week and last week for some training with some of my team. So like you said, it's definitely a possibility to be based remotely and then have the opportunity to travel back and forth to your host site depending on your experience. So a little bit about me and my fellowship. I chose an ASPPH fellowship because it offered a unique opportunity to align some of my passions and career goals, and as someone who's dedicated to reducing health inequities and promoting culturally responsive communication, this particular fellowship really provided that perfect platform. Moreover, really the chance to work at the National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases has been a great opportunity to allow me to address critical issues ranging from preventing mosquito and tick-borne diseases to designing health education materials. But beyond the mission, the fellowship offers unparalleled professional growth, enabling me to build skills in emergency preparedness, partner engagement, risk communication, culturally competent messaging, all while contributing meaningfully to public health work. Next slide, please. So a little bit about my fellowship. My fellowship revolves around health education and communication, research, and evaluation. One key focus has been creating culturally tailored messaging that resonates with diverse communities. During my first year at the CDC, I've supported community engagement and communication projects on topics ranging from dengue in Puerto Rico to mpox here in the US. On the research side, I've also developed and analyzed several surveys, including leading the development of a 20-item survey for over 500 respondents in the US to gather information on insect bite prevention behaviors, all in an effort to inform our center's public health strategies. Collaboration is also a central part of my fellowship. I've worked cross-divisionally with several teams, supported social media strategies, targeting Gen Z, and partnered with vendors to ensure that our communication materials are all evidence-based and impactful. And lastly, as a fellow on a health education track, I've also been able to participate in several professional development activities like taking online courses in various areas of public health, attending several public health conferences, and even sitting for the CHES or Certified Health Education Specialist exam. Next slide, please. And lastly, so how to make your application stand out. It's important to tailor every section of the application to the fellowship submission. For example, if you're passionate about global health or health equity, make sure that stands out clearly in your essays. It's also important to highlight your unique skills. In my case, I emphasize my multilingual abilities and my unique global health experiences because I knew that these skills would be important in highlighting or demonstrating my ability to address diverse audiences and their needs. And lastly, it's important to be strategic. So using clear and concise language in your essays and ensuring that your resume reflects measurable outcomes from your previous roles, as well as ensuring you have strong recommendations from mentors who can vouch for your leadership and adaptability will also make a huge difference in your application. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Michael. And now we're going to hear from Burnley Truex, who is a graduate of the University of Michigan School of Public Health and is based at EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C. Burnley.
Yes, thank you, Monica, and thanks for everybody for being here and all the ASPPH staff that's put this webinar together. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, my name is Burnley Truex, and as Monica mentioned, I graduated from University of Michigan School of Public Health with a focus in environmental sciences. And I am now in my second year of the ASPPH EPA Fellowship. And I'm housed within an office that was newly created under the Biden and Harris administration, which is the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. And within that, I sit in the division called the Policy and Analysis Division. And I put my contact information up. I'm sure Monica will also share it with you guys after the presentation if you have any questions for us. So you can go to the next slides here. So why did I choose the ASPPH fellowship? Following you finish your master's in public health and you're excited to apply it and to work in the field. And so why did I choose this fellowship over other opportunities? First, I wanted to understand how environmental health was practiced at the national level. I know that in any future opportunity I have within environmental health, EPA will intersect that somehow. EPA is a grantor of a lot of university and nonprofit research groups. And they also pass national policies and legislation on, or not legislation, but national policies and regulations by interpreting the legislation. And I know that will affect me in my future job. So I wanted to understand how the EPA works. And similarly, I wanted to understand how do these topics that we covered in our MPH degrees, like toxicology, epidemiology, biostats, policy, and law, how do those all operate together within this national entity? And I'm learning that at my fellowship right now. And also, additionally, I wanted to understand in my MPH degree, I had participated in some research projects, and I wanted to understand how does that research get translated into the policy and the regulations, and um, how do those two entities speak to each other within EPA? And I'm learning that as well at my internship. And ultimately, I wanted to do a fellowship because the difference of doing a fellowship versus entering the job market is that in the job, it's focused on the product that you're making. It's focused on what is the output of your work hours versus with a fellowship where there is still a focus on what work are you bringing and contributing to the team, but it's focused more on your development and your growth as you apply your skills. And I really appreciate that. And we can go to the next slide. And so I wanted to give you a taste of what it's like as an EPA, ASPPH, EPA fellow. On the right, this is a picture of our division team. And amongst, there's some people missing. There's also another fellow that's photographed, Aaron Joyce, in this photo. So amongst our team of about 14 individuals, we are geographers, we're health scientists, we're policy analysts, all trying to promote the understanding, EPA's understanding of how these concepts of susceptibility and vulnerability are considered at EPA and how we can consider them. So our team is focused on creating tools and resources for EPA scientists to use in their activities. Um, so one of the big projects that I've been working on for the past year has been collaborating with agency scientists to first see what are the gaps in how we're considering susceptibility and vulnerability in risk assessment, and what are resources that we can provide to those risk assessors. And then additionally, I've been co-leading a cumulative issues working group. And cumulative issues or cumulative exposures, there's a lot of terms that are used. It basically means the combined effect of social stressors and chemical stressors and how that affects the ultimate health outcome. And EPA is doing a lot to advance their cumulative strategies. And then similarly to Michael, us at EPA, we attend a lot of training sessions. There's about one training session you can attend almost like every week. Recently, I attended the Office of Water's Water Quality Academy, where you learned about how water standards are developed. And then you can also, if you have funds to attend conferences and to network with people across the field. One conference, for instance, I've gone to is the International Society for Exposure Scientists, as well as APHA and ISEE. And then this upcoming year, I'm excited on, building on the skills that I've learned this first fellowship year and trying to consolidate some of these cumulative approaches and strategies that EPA risk assessments have used. So we can go to the next slide. And then how did I make my application stand out? I think, it's so interesting to be on the other side of having been a prospective applicant many times for many different positions. And now I'm in the position. And I would say it's important to be honest, and not to say that, we're trying to create or we're not trying to be dishonest. I think it's important to remember that your experiences are very valuable, and that when you talk about what you're interested in, it comes off with enthusiasm, and the people reading your application or interviewing you, they see that, wow, this person is really eager and interested and curious, and that curiosity goes a very long way. And I have learned that in this fellowship as well. I think also what's important is making a story of your of who you are as an applicant. So that's point 2 here about explaining how your past experiences have informed where you are now. That's like, explaining how your MPH, or even before your MPH, why did you go to your MPH? How has your MPH changed you and transformed how you think, and driven you to what you're interested in? And then I think also making a clear argument for how can this fellowship be helpful in achieving your career goals, but even how you think it could be transformational. I think oftentimes we can think of opportunities as just, the checkmark box, but really thinking about it as this fellowship is a tool to get me to another place, and what can this fellowship allow me to do? Making that argument is very helpful in an application. And I mentioned before, showing enthusiasm for what you're learning and what you're curious about. And then I so strongly, I think demonstrating how you can solve problems both within a team, your experience working within a team, and independently. Because in my fellowship, it takes both, communicating with team members and also working independently and communicating what you've done to the group. So yes, that is my 2 cents. And good luck, everybody. Feel free to reach out. And I don't want to speak for you, Michael, but feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions you have. And thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Burnley. And thanks so much to both of our fellows today for sharing your experiences and insight. So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Sierra Sledge, who will tell you about the ASPPH online application system. Sierra.
Thank you, Monica. I'll now talk about the application process. To apply for a fellowship, applicants first need to create an account in the ASPPH portal if they don't already have one. For those of you who already have an account in our system, you can also sign in from this page. Next slide, please. To begin, there are 5 main components of the application package: your CV or resume, 2 recommendation letters, which are specific to the program being applied to. Suggested references are individuals with whom you have built a substantial relationship, either through school, public health practice, volunteer or community service, or another professional experience. The individual should be able to effectively address your skills, qualities, and personal attributes. It is critical to select references who can speak well to your assets and abilities that make you a strong candidate for the fellowship. In addition, a graduate transcript from your school or program of public health is also required. For the application, you may submit an official or unofficial transcript. But if you are selected for a position, then you must provide your official transcript before you can begin the fellowship. In addition, ASPPH now requires applicants to complete 2 essay prompts, unlike prior years when there was only one. The first prompt, specific to the position to which you are applying. So if you apply to only one position, you only need to submit 1 essay. But if you apply to 3 positions, you will need to submit 3 essays. The second prompt, specific to the program in which you are applying, CDC or EPA, for example, this will only include 1 essay. In this essay, you will do a few things. Explain your personal and professional interests, strengths, qualifications for succeeding in this particular fellowship assignment, and how it will benefit your long-term career plans in the field of public health. In both essays, be sure to highlight your unique lived experiences and special attributes. Special consideration will be given to candidates who have been exposed to a broad array of life experiences and viewpoints, and those who can bring diverse perspectives and experiences to the fellowship, project focus areas, and public health in general. You will also need to provide your faculty advisor information. This, however, is only for applicants who have not yet graduated or whose transcript does not yet show your graduation date. So an advisor will need to verify your graduation date. Finally, if you are not a U.S. citizen, but instead a permanent resident, you will be asked to indicate that in your application. Both green card holders and U.S. citizens will be required to provide proof of citizenship or residency status if they are offered a position, as all fellows are required to go through a federal security clearance process. I will now walk through how to use the ASPPH application portal. The first step in applying is to visit the ASPPH Fellowship Application Portal at fellowships-internships.asppph.org. This link is available on the main fellowships page of the ASPPH website. You may log in or sign up for a new account directly from this page. Once you have logged in, you will come to the home page of the ASPPH Application Portal. This page shows any open applications at the top, including the application deadline and a link to view the full program announcement. The program announcement is the most important resource you have when applying for a fellowship. I cannot express this enough. We strongly recommend that you review the entire program announcement before starting an application. It includes detailed information about the fellowship program, open positions, eligibility, application review procedures and criteria, timelines, as well as how to apply. As mentioned, this will include all project descriptions for the available fellowship positions. It is essential that you review this information to determine which positions are the best match for you and your goals. The homepage also includes some quick information to links of additional resources, including a My Status section shown here. Once you have submitted an application, you can track the progress of your application in this section. You can also find a user's manual with step-by-step instructions on how to apply at the bottom of the page in the resources section. Under the My Status section, you will also see if your recommenders and advisors have submitted their materials for you. If you see that they have not yet submitted their pieces and the deadline is approaching, we suggest you reach out to them with a friendly reminder. You'll see here that there are 5 steps to complete and submit your application. Step 1 is the My Profile page, where you enter your personal and contact information. Please be sure to use a permanent email address for your application, since this is the email ASPPH will use to contact you about your application throughout the entire process. So a school email might not be the best option if you will not have access to it after you graduate. Step 2 is My Education, which is where you will enter your degree information and upload your resume and transcript. Note that in the application system, you may upload an unofficial graduate transcript for the purposes of the application. If you are offered and accept a fellowship position, you will be required to provide an official graduate transcript. In addition, when you enter your graduation date, if you have not yet graduated, you will be directed to enter your faculty advisor information. In part 3 of the application, you will have the opportunity to generate an email to your faculty advisor simultaneously for your references. Verification of graduation date from your faculty advisor must also be received by the application deadline. You should talk to your faculty advisor before the application deadline so that you are aware and will be prepared to respond. Step 2 is also where you will upload your resume and graduate transcripts. Step 3 is My Application. This is where you will select the positions you are applying to and upload your essays, as well as enter the information for your references. Under the first essay prompt, you will see a list of training opportunities for the fellowship program. If you are unsure which opportunities you want to apply to, refer back to the program announcement, which includes details about each position. You will apply to the position you are interested in by uploading an essay to that position. You may apply to a maximum of 3 positions under each fellowship program. The system will not allow you to upload more than 3 essays per program. So to clarify, if you wish to apply to both the CDC and EPA programs, you may apply to 3 positions under the under the CDC and under 3 positions in the EPA as well. Applications are separate for each program. Further down the page, you will see that the second essay prompt, this prompt is unique to the program. So EPA will have a different one than CDC's. In step 4, you will review your entire application. If you need to make any changes, simply click on the pencil icon next to the section you want to revise, and it will take you back to that section to make any changes. The reference section is at the bottom of section 3. This is where you will enter the contact information for the 2 people who have agreed to write your letters of recommendations. There is no restrictions on whom you may request to be your reference, but as discussed earlier, they should be people who can speak well to your experience and qualifications for the program and the positions you are applying to specifically. They should know you very well. You will also see at the bottom of the page a newly implemented feature, the Send Now button. With this feature, you will have the opportunity to generate emails to your faculty advisor if you have not graduated yet, and your references before submitting your application. If you do not click Send Now in the applications, the emails will not go out until you submit your application. The deadline for your faculty advisor and references to submit their pieces is the same as the application deadline. Therefore, we highly recommend using the Send Now feature to generate emails before submitting your application so that they have time to complete their letters of recommendation before the deadline. The final step is to submit your application, which is step 5. Check the box to electronically sign your application and then hit the submit button. When your application is successfully submitted, you will receive a confirmation email. At the time of submission, the system will automatically generate emails to your references and faculty advisor if you have not already done so using the Send Now button that I just reviewed. Please remember that save application with that information will not generate emails to your references nor submit the application. You must hit submit for this to happen. Once you have submitted your application, you may still make changes to it at any time prior to the deadline. You will do this by rescinding your application from your homepage by clicking on the pencil icon under My Status. A box will pop up and you'll click the rescind button. Just remember, if you rescind, you must resubmit your application by the deadline or it will not be reviewed. ASPPH will not accept any incomplete applications. This includes missing information and submissions from your references or faculty advisor. Once again, the application deadline is also the deadline for your references and faculty advisor to submit their documents. To reiterate, on this page under My Status is also where you will see if your recommenders and advisor have submitted their materials. You should monitor this prior to submitting your application so that you can send them a friendly reminder if needed. Once the deadline has passed, ASPPH will review all applications for completeness as well as eligibility. We will update your status in the system when your application has been verified and moved along to the review stage. You may view your application status at any time you are logged into the system. The system will also automatically send you an email update with a change in status. And now I'll hand the presentation back to Monica.
Great, thank you so much, Sierra. ASPPH ensures that all eligible completed applications submitted by the deadline will be reviewed in an open, fair, and objective process. Each application is reviewed by 2 faculty or staff members from ASPPH member institutions, but not from the same institution as the applicant. Applications are scored according to criteria noted in the program announcement, and the top applicants progress to the next phase, the technical review. During that time, the agency may contact applicants directly for virtual interviews. Moving on to the technical review phase does not guarantee that an applicant will receive an interview, only that the application has been sent to the placement agency for review. It's possible that not all applicants in technical review will receive interviews. In addition, for the ASPPH EPA Fellowship Program, the middle step is a formal panel interview. The interviews will be held virtually via Zoom in April. All applicants who advance to this stage are required to participate in the panel interview in order to be considered for final placement. The top applicants from the interviews will then progress to technical review at EPA. Individuals selected for positions with each program will be contacted directly by ASPPH via phone and email. Those applicants who are not selected will be notified by ASPPH by email. The timeline for each program varies. Please refer to our website and the specific program announcement to review important dates for the program in which you are interested. You can easily access information online, including all application deadlines and detailed application instructions on our website. The Fellowships and Internships page is located under the Practice section of the ASPPH website. Alternatively, you can simply search online for ASPPH Fellowships. You can also go directly to the Fellowships application portal to create an account and apply. Lastly, a great way to stay updated about training opportunities is to subscribe to the ASPPH Friday letter. We announce all fellowship openings through the ASPPH Friday letter and also advertise partner opportunities. So as a reminder, you can type your question into the questions box on the toolbar at the bottom of your computer screen. We'll go ahead and answer as many questions as possible with the remaining time we have left. and any follow-up questions may be emailed to us at trainingprograms@esppph.org. So we have about 20 minutes left, and we'll go ahead and open up the Q&A. And I will answer what I can. I might pass some questions over to Sierra or one of our other panelists today, depending on what the question might be. So, are there opportunities for international students? As I mentioned before, unfortunately, because our current programs are entirely funded by federal dollars or taxpayer money, they do have the requirement that all applicants and accepted fellows are US, US citizens or permanent residents of the US. But there are other ways where you can do searches, like at the federal agencies, they do have some opportunities for international students. So you can check the agency websites directly. You can also check the ASPPH website, publichealthjobs.org. Some of our partners will advertise there if they have opportunities available, and they will say if they're available for international students. Also, register for the Friday letter. We work with our partners and we advertise opportunities there as well. And again, if they're open to international students, they will specify that in their announcement. Okay, so is the USF MHA program eligible? I can't answer that right now because we would need to look it up. So I believe, and I'm assuming that's South Florida. Sierra, will you do me a favor while I go on to the next question? Will you look up on our members portal and see if USF is a program or school, and it'll say. If it's a program, then that's where it gets a little gray, but we'll hold on that one in just a minute. Otherwise, I encourage you to do a little research on your own and to identify whether or not you're eligible. So another question, when did you all know where you would be located? How much time did you have to relocate before beginning your fellowship? So I'll tell you, so this is a little different between CDC and EPA. For the CDC fellowship, you will have all that information at the time you apply. So next week, when we announce the various fellowship positions that are available, it will specify exactly where that position is located and whether or not it's hybrid, remote, in person, and if in person or hybrid, what city you would be required to relocate to. With EPA, however, it works a little differently since they allow their offices a little more time to identify their need for a fellow or an available opportunity within their office. You will not know where the position is until we're actually offering it to you. So after you go through the process, we will extend a formal offer, and I will send Sierra or I will send a detailed email, and it'll talk about exactly which office within EPA and what geographic location that office is based in. And I will tell you, for EPA, they are definitely looking more toward in-person fellowships. In fact, we don't have a single EPA fellow right now who's not in person. Well, actually, no, we have one who's kind of hybrid, but for the most part, EPA is really going back toward in person. And I suspect that under the new administration that will continue. So keep that in mind. But with the CDC fellows, it's a little different. There's a little more flexibility there. Okay. So has the CDC application opened yet? As I mentioned, it'll open next Friday. So that's when that'll open. Sierra, were you able to find out about USF?
Yes, USF is a member school.
Okay, and it's a school, not a program, correct?
The school, correct.
Okay, as long as the degree, so your MHA, is directly from the USF School of Public Health. If it's through any other school at USF, you are not eligible. If your degree is from the School of Public Health, then yes, it is an eligible degree. Okay, so let's see, did that. Is the fellowship paid? If so, how much are fellows paid? Yes, you do receive a training stipend and health insurance allowance, and in most, but not all, cases you receive a travel and training allowance are funds that are available toward that as well. It does vary by program. So CDC operates a little differently than EPA. As Sierra mentioned a couple of times in her presentation, we really encourage you to look up the program announcement. But the one for EPA is already available. The one for CDC will be posted at the time we announce the fellowship. So next Friday morning, everything will be up on our website, on the application portal. All the information you need for the CDC program will be available beginning next Friday, January 24th. So again, the program announcement is going to be your most valuable tool during this process. It has all the information you can need regarding stipends and application requirements and so forth. So keep note of that. Okay, so what is the compensation? You'll find that in the program announcement. So interviews are only done for EPA fellowship applicants or CDC as well. Only EPA. And Burnley, do you want to talk about that process and what you experienced during the panel interview process?
Yeah, so the panel interview with alumni of ASPPH, or the technical interview?
The panel interview. So just to reiterate a little bit. So with CDC, there are two phases: the objective review, where the application goes out to our member institutions. Two people will review your application, score it, and then we will rank it. That happens for both programs. For CDC, it goes then the next phase is immediately technical review at the agency, where they will then review your applications and then decide who they want to interview. For EPA, there's another step in between those. So where CDC is objective review and technical review, for EPA, in between those two steps, there's also the panel interview process. So during that process, all of our applicants will go through individual, their virtual interviews done by Zoom. They last 30 minutes, and you will spend time talking to two alumni and one current ASPPH EPA fellow. So that's the one I'm referring to.
Yeah, that was I did that as I was a student at University of Michigan, and it was great learning. In the introduction to the panel interview, the panelists introduce themselves and give a brief description about what they're doing and how they've used the fellowship. So it's a time also to ask questions to the panelists, which I found really useful. You're asked a lot of questions around not technical, of course, because it's not a technical interview, so you're not asked public health specific questions. It's more questions related to how do you work? How have you worked independently before? Or what's interesting about this particular fellowship and working in the federal government? And so it's more broad questions about how do you see yourself working in the federal government. That's what I'd say.
Right, and just to add to that, we are looking for your enthusiasm for public health and environmental health, more specifically for that program, for your professionalism. Do you show up on time? Don't show up late. Are you in a t-shirt, or are you actually in something that, at least on the upper half, is professional? We want to make sure you'll be a strong representative for ASPPH and your school to move forward in the selection process. So that's what it's really all about. And again, that's only for EPA, not CDC. So we also have, so it was mentioned that it is common for ASPPH fellows to stay with their host agency. How does this work? Would individuals stay in the same position or transfer to new positions within the agency? Okay, so it's very important to state that fellowships do not guarantee that you'll continue on in an FTE or even a contractor position at the agency. However, with that said, many of our fellows do. Sometimes it's within the same office, the host office, where fellows do their assignments. Other times it's within the same center or division, but in another office that, through networking during the fellowship, you were able to, find another opportunity. Other times It's with a completely different. I have one fellow at USDA who is going to be got a full-time position in the HRSA, in the Rural Health Division at HRSA. So different division, but similar type of work. So it's really on you. That's when you're going to take what you've learned during the fellowship, take that opportunity, network, meet people, as many people as you can, but put that front foot forward and take that initiative and to meet people, to network, to look for opportunities. Sometimes it'll be in the same agency, sometimes it'll be in the same office, other times it won't. And actually, Michael, if it's okay, I'm going to have you chat about this. So Michael actually is getting ready to complete his fellowship because he was just recently offered an opportunity. So Michael, if it's okay with you, if you can just say just briefly, about what led you to the position that you've been offered and how you navigated through that.
Well, thanks so much, Monica. So yeah, I started my fellowship in September of 23, right after grad school. And I saw someone in the questions also ask that they're in an accelerated program. So I was in an accelerated program too. I did undergrad and grad school in 5 years, graduated the spring and then started in the fall. So I've been a fellow now for I think about like 15 months or so. And once I hit that 1 year mark, so last September, I started applying to FTE positions, full-time employee, like permanent positions within the CDC. I really tried to make sure my first year that I could do as much as possible so I could build my federal resume so that I had outputs and projects that I could put on there that I did for a wide variety of things. I know people have also asked about concentrations and how that plays a role. So my background was, my MPH was in global health and biosecurity and disaster preparedness. But I ended up working on health communications and social behavioral and evaluation sciences. So not necessarily what I studied or focused on in grad school. And then also being on a health education track, that was something new as well. So with all of that in mind, I applied to a wide range of positions, really, like public health analyst, public health advisor, health educator, health communication specialist, really, because I had such a wide range of kind of like my hands in a whole bunch of different projects throughout my first year. I was able to gather, products that would benefit or qualify for those various positions. So something important to know is you do apply as an external candidate. We're not internal applicants through the fellowship. So we're applying kind of like the general US public. And yeah, like Monica mentioned, it really does depend on where there are openings and funding available. Personally, I would have loved to stay in where I am right now. So I'm at the National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases, working in the office of the director. So we oversee 7 divisions. But unfortunately, they weren't hiring right now. But because of networking and kind of having my hands on various projects, I did network with several of our divisions, and ultimately, I did see that they had a few openings, and I applied for a health communication specialist position in our division for healthcare quality and promotion. And having already worked with some of their team members and knowing what they do, definitely gave me a leg up in the interview process and applying. So I'll be staying in my center, which is really, really nice, just moving down to one of our divisions. So it's definitely possible. It's not guaranteed, like Monica said. You just really have to start from day one, preparing yourself if that's really what your end goal is.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael. And I hope that was helpful for all of you on today's webinar. So next question is, can you repeat again if this is a 1-year versus 2-year program? So if I'm understanding this question correctly, we have had fellows, not recently, but we have had fellows. The precedent has been set a couple of times where fellows have completed one fellowship and then applied for and have been accepted to another ASPPH fellowship. So for example, I had a fellow who was a CDC fellow and then became an EPA fellow. I had, so that has happened. So yes, it is possible. So I hope that answers your question there. Next question, what part of the application will be weighed the most, or will all parts such as, okay, so we have the criteria specified in the program announcement. So again, the program announcement for the EPA is already posted. The program announcement for CDC will be posted next Friday, January 24th. And part of that program announcement does include the criteria and the weighting for each section. So I can tell you essays is 50% of your score. So you're going to want to spend time on your essay, write it, rewrite, have a couple different people read it over. So that is going to hold the most weight. So I can tell you that. And it's the same. The weighting is the same, whether it's EPA or CDC or USDA. So it also asks if there's a minimum GPA. No, there is no minimum GPA. The applications will be reviewed as a whole. So a piece of, your GPA falls under your credentials, and they will look at your transcripts along with your CV or resume and look at that together. I think that's 20% for those two. But again, you'll need to double check in the program announcement. So what are some examples of projects through the CDC fellowship, and are the opportunities for hands-on lab work? I have a background in microbiology and an interest in infectious diseases. We have a little time. Michael, I don't believe you've done any, since you're a health ed, I don't believe you've done any lab work, but I don't know. But I also know you talk to a lot of the fellows. So if you want to take a stab at answering that, about have any of the fellows that you're aware of. I know in the past there have been fellows who have been in labs. Also at EPA, we've had a lot of fellows who've been in the labs down in North Carolina. But what has your experience been, Michael?
Yeah, no, so I have minimal lab experience, and I haven't done really any of it at CDC apart from touring the labs. If you're interested in doing lab work, I don't know what opportunities are going to be announced next week, Monica, but I would urge the prospective applicants to look at those postings and see there might be a position that's in a laboratory, and really carefully go through that. I would also say, during your interview process, if you get to have an interview, kind of express that and see if there are any opportunities to potentially either shadow or participate in some lab experience as well.
Terrific, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question for the EPA fellowship, is there flexibility with the start date, i.e. starting in September rather than October? Unfortunately, no, because we do an orientation, and all fellows are required to start their fellowship with that orientation program, and that will occur in October. We're not sure of the exact date yet. It's likely, it could be October 1st, it could be October 15th, but it'll be no later than October 15th. So it will be in that first half of October. So we have a question. I applied to USDA Rural Health Fellowship. When would I know if I could be remote? So it is specified in the program announcement that was posted for that position. They prefer somebody who's going to be in person, who's going to be based here in DC, but they are considering remote candidates. I know, for example, with the current USDA fellow, she was actually remote at the beginning, and she made the decision herself to relocate to DC to be closer and to be more hands-on, and there are more networking opportunities and things like that. So, USDA is considering remote candidates. So how common is it to get hired again, EPA and CDC? I don't have the exact numbers, but a large portion of it, a portion of our fellows are offered opportunities. My guess is probably, I don't know, maybe a third, I want to say. Maybe a little higher. Recently, it's been a little higher. We've had a lot of fellows who have been leaving to take full-time positions, either at the agency where their fellowships are, or as I mentioned earlier, at other federal agencies. So, because once you get your foot in the door, a lot of projects and a lot of your networking, you will come across people from other federal agencies who are collaborating with your federal agency. So, for example, if you're at CDC, you might be collaborating with folks at USDA or HHS or other agencies. So again, I cannot stress, if you are awarded a fellowship position with either program, network. It's so important, and I can't stress that enough. Okay, so what information and skill sets do we need to have to prepare for either fellowship? What if this is your first experience post-grad with an organization? It's 1 o'clock, so I will leave you with this. It's a fellowship. They're not your past experience, I believe, is only 10% of the weighted score. And you can talk about, all kinds of different experiences. If you're looking for a position at CDC, that doesn't mean they're looking for somebody who's had that experience within a federal health agency before. They just want to see that you've expressed some interest in the area of that particular fellowship position or in public health or what have you. So leverage. I think it was Michael or Berlin. I don't remember which one of you said all of your experience is important. It's so important to highlight what you personally bring to this. And they're not necessarily looking for that applied experience because you're just graduating, right? We're looking for those early career professionals. That's what this is all about. This position is to give you that experience to take to the next level. So with that, I want to thank everybody who's been on our call today. It's been a wonderful chatting with you. We're over time, so I want to hand it off. But again, any follow-up questions, please send to trainingprogram@asppph.org. And I thank you for joining us for today's presentation, and I look forward to receiving all of your applications. Bye-bye.